Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm Ali Nejad. Usually you hear my voice, you don't see my face if you watch Poker After Dark, but I am a real human. I'm not a computer-generated deal, and I play at FullTiltPoker.com, where you can learn, chat, and hang out, or whatever, rail, bum money, I don't know, whatever it is that you want to do. So I'm at this 816 horse table, which is not my table. There's two 816 horse tables, and we should probably fix that, because you should have to play at my table if you're going to play 816 horse. Oh yeah, sorry, right, forgot about it. So yeah, I'm at an 816 horse table right now, which is not my table. It's this other Habsburg deal or whatever, and we're going to have to put a word in with some people here, because I have an 816 horse table, and these people are not playing at it. They're playing at the other table. But it could just be fear. I mean, you know, that could be what it is, because I think people have started to realize that Ali is not an announcer donk. You know what I mean? That's what everyone thinks, though. So I'm going to post my antes, and it looks like the first round that we're going to play is stud 8 or better, which is probably a game that people play worse than anything else. I think the biggest mistake in stud 8 or better that people make is playing split pairs, like between 9s and kings, because you figure anything between 9s and kings, that's already 2 cards that aren't going to contribute to making a low, and you're only going to get 7 cards, so you're going to have to hit, you know, 5, all the rest of your cards, you know, to be low if you're going to have a shot at that end of the pot. And if you're only drawn to the high side of the pot, that's a mistake too, because when you're on the low end, you're free rolling toward backing into a high. If you've got something like ace, deuce, 4, 7 in your first 4 cards, all of a sudden that can turn into trips, you know what I mean, or aces up, or you can back into a straight to go with your low. So that's why you definitely want to avoid playing high hands in stud high low. We just mucked our first one. Now the one infuriating thing about playing these mixed games, actually there's a few. One is they can be really slow, but that's okay. You can always open up more than one window or whatever. And then the other thing is, and don't do this, please don't do this, sit in for every single game. Like, people hate Raz, right? So they sit out. And I'm like, that's not cool. It's horse. It's not hose. If it's horse, then you got to play all the games. Like, why? What, are you worried? It's just, I don't know. Although Raz is kind of archaic. It should be banned. It'll make your hair turn white pretty quickly. Actually, I got a few here. This is from my last Raz session. I'm not lying to you. I shouldn't limp here, but I'm going to. Now, the reason I probably shouldn't limp here is because I'm in early position, and I'm up against a 3, a 6, and an ace, all of which are cards that can make a low. Now, the 6 just completed it, and it's possible that the ace would re-raise pre-flop here. But I'm not going to sit here and muck the whole time that we're doing this video, so I'm going to give a little action. And for the record, we bought in $600, but we did destroy someone to the tune of, there's the re-raise from the ace. Thanks, here's your $2 bill. We did destroy someone to the tune of, like, what was it, $170 while we waited for our equipment to get going. So even if I lose here, I'm still a winner. Just want you to know that, so I can afford to give action. All right, so I got 9, 10, queen. In stud high, this is the kind of hand that you may limp with, you know, 2 suited. But in stud high low, you need to get rid of it because you're only drawn to one side of the pot. So unless all the door cards out there were high cards and, you know, you felt like they weren't cards that take away from your ability to make a straight or make a pair, you know, 9, 10, jack, queen, king, or even an 8, you wouldn't necessarily want to get in. The problem, again, with just going for the high is you're only drawing to half the pot at any given time if you're just going for the high. Like, if you start with 3 high cards, you're only drawing to half the pot. And what you really want to do in split pot games is scoop. So that's the cardinal sin, is to give yourself just an opportunity to win half the pot. Now, as you get better and better in the game and as you begin to know your opponents more and more, it's the kind of thing that you may be able to get away with. I'm just going to pick up the action right here. Looks like a 6 of diamonds brought it in, a 6 of spades completed. Now this person here, leather ace, is flat calling with the king of diamonds showing. In all likelihood, they have a pair of kings, and that's really bad considering that an ace is out here. We're going to call, even though we have a 7 low, and in all likelihood, POHA over here has a 6 low, and this rat bastard, too much action over here, just made it 2 scoops. So that doesn't make us very happy. Now, that's the argument against leather ace just flat calling here with 2 kings, because you don't know if too much action has split aces or if they've got 3 to a low. You have no idea. So let's tear one off. We want a 4 or a 5. Not the queen of clubs. That's probably what you can file under brick. That's not our favorite card. Okay, now the interesting thing here is that Leather ace for sure is not going to make a low. Too much action may have re-raised with split aces. So we have 3, 6, 7. It's a very liberal call, but the dynamic of the hand has changed because this P0HA guy is out of the pot. So we may be able to pick up a straight draw or a low draw here on the turn. 9 of diamonds really doesn't help us. That's, I mean, it's rigged. I've heard about this site. You know, it's all a fix. You know, so look, realize that we do not get any preferential treatment. Like, we lose pots. This is a disgusting card. Now I've only got 3 to a low, and I'd have to hit 2 low cards in succession just to hopefully make half the pot. Too much action here has got an ace and a 5. They could have something like deuce 3 or deuce 4 in the hole and be drawn to a better low and a high for a wheel. So that's the end of that hand, which cost us 24 American dollars plus the ante, 25.50. It's not fun. I'm upset. Now here's a huge hand for us. Ace, deuce 5, 2 suited, which, you know, is 3 of the pieces that you need to make a wheel. Of course, we're not going to get any action here except from leather ace, who limps in. Now, the 10 of hearts doesn't help us with the low, but we've got 3 cards to a flush, and we've got the overcard. And leather ace is leading out after limping with the 6 of diamonds, so I'm just going to give it a liberal raise just to check him out and see where he's at. He's going to call. He may very well have had a pair of 6s to start, although I don't think that he would limp in. Although I should stop calling him he, because it's actually Miss Cleo from that psychic hotline. So she is what we'll go with from now on. Now we picked up a 4th low card on the turn, let out, and we picked up the pot right there. One of the things you don't necessarily want to get in the habit of, as we have split 6s with the deuce, I'll just call here, is being really weak and being really passive in a head-up pot especially. What would leather ace have limped there after everybody folded and, you know, they have a 6 showing? In a high-low game, they should be raising if they're going to play the pot. Even if it's split 6s, you're looking at, you know, a 5 in front of me. Let's see here. Leather ace just picked up a low card, and so did P0HA in a 3-way pot. So we'll just check, because in all likelihood, between the 2 of them, somebody's got a low draw. And no one bets, which is really weird. Actions on us, and leather ace has picked up a great card. It's 3 cards to a flush and a 3rd low card. If you don't bet here, you hate money. What? Wow. That was an amazing check. Like, that's good. Hopefully that's ace 3 of hearts in the hole for leather ace, and he's just slow playing, or she's just slow playing. That's amazing. I don't know. There's clearly 816 horse is one of the juicier games available online today. So if you're out there, jump in. Okay, yeah, we have $2 invested. We're not going to call the end. That is remarkable. Stud, like I said, though, stud high-low is a game that people play really, really poorly, and they make that cardinal mistake, like leather ace did earlier with the king showing, of drawing to half the pot. You never want to get in that situation. That's like the #1 key rule, unless, of course, you get into shorthanded situations, or you know, you start to get a really good feel for what type of hands your opponents are playing. For instance, if one guy's in with a 9, one guy's in with a jack, and you've got split kings, and there's no low cards in the door on anyone's board, well, okay, you can play that pot, you know what I mean? But in all likelihood, when it's stud high-low, somebody out there is going to have a low draw to start the hand. That's a general rule of thumb. 4, 5, 8. This is liberal because we're up against 3 low cards showing, which is that many less low cards that can hit our hand. We need a 3 is one of the low cards that help us. The 5 will give us a pair. But we're 2 suited, and no one's going to be able to raise behind us, so we'll just limp in for $2 and see what happens. The ace of diamonds is a great, great card for our hand, because now we've picked up a low draw. It's a good 8, and we've got 3 to a flush. There is one other ace out there, too much action, but both of them fold. P0HA now has a 5 and a 4 showing. They could have a low draw, could have some kind of straight draw to go with it, but we'll find out in a second here. Okay, there's the raise. Probably something like a 3-6, maybe a, maybe a deuce 6, a better low draw, one would assume, that also has a straight draw. But that's not going to stop us from calling. We're already invested for 8. That's not a good card for us. The queen of hearts up against now 3 to a low showing in a heads-up pot. And essentially, as far as the high is concerned, he could already have a straight here with 6-7. Could be, could be just a low that's better, and we would have to back into a high. So at this point, you can shut it down, because even though you have a low draw, you're up against 3 to a low, which could also be a high, could be a better low, even if it's not a high, and you're only going to draw to the low end of the pot. So it's best to just get rid of it, even though it looks pretty. We had 3 diamonds and 4 to a low. That's another situation where you should be really disciplined and not chase, even though your hand looks good, because you're not getting value. What you want is 3-handed situations in this game and more, 3, 4, 5-handed situations, because if you're going to split the pot, you don't want to split just your money and the guy you played against. You want to split someone else. That's the only way you're going to make a profit, really. We're stuck 33 American dollars, and I've given you all this knowledge on how to play this game, so obviously results are not always guaranteed. Play at your own risk, that's for sure. All right, we're waiting to post. What happens is when it goes to flop games in a horse game, the blinds pick up wherever the button had left off when they switch from flop games to draw games, or not draw games, stud games or Raz games. And you have to wait or post. I mean, I suppose I could have been the savage that posted there. All right, so we're in the big blind. All right, by the way, I'm just having fun with you two. You both play well and know it. All right, here we go. I'm calling with King Deuce of Hearts because P0HA is clearly angry with me for chatting the way that I am and is attacking my blind like the rat bastard that he is. Oh, now he had, okay, now this is an interesting thing. We checked on an 8-5-3 board with a couple of diamonds. He had raised, and when we checked, he had like, I don't know if it was the insta-check call or the insta-check fold thing highlighted. But in any case, the fact that he had that pre-action button clicked, to me, indicates that he could be done with the hand. It's either between he was going to, check call or check fold, depending on what I did. Usually people won't put in the insta-raise button. I don't know why, but in my experience, they don't use the button for the raise. So what we did there is take advantage of the fact that it seemed like P0HA didn't want to play the hand anymore and let out on the turn once middle pair paired and just took a shot with king high. It could have been the best hand, but I don't want to check and then let him fire a barrel there on the turn. And we can just pick up the pot by leading out. We're 3 off the button here. Blinds are out there. It's a 7-handed play because Resilient's sitting out. This is definitely a hand that you can raise with. And we picked up the blinds. Another weird thing that happens is while it does tilt some people for you to play slowly, when you take your time to act, especially if people are in another game and don't want to have to click back and forth between windows, they use oftentimes their like early fold buttons and things like that. So you can oftentimes pick up on the idea that somebody wanted to play a hand regardless when they don't insta-fold if you raise and then the action gets back over to them, and you can kind of get a sense that their decision to play their hand is they're in the range that they usually play. All right, so I've got a gut shot straight draw here. I raised under the gun. I got cold called on the button by Kid Eager, and Leather Ace, Miss Cleo over here, called from the big blind, getting 5 to 1, 5.5 to 1 on his or her money. Now I'm going to fire another barrel here just to see where I'm at. I've been taking a long time to act, though, which can do one of two things. It polarizes people. It makes them think that you're either A, very weak, and just wanting to look really strong or whatnot, and get people to fold or give the appearance of being a big hand, or it makes them think you're very, very strong. Now the turn card's a total brick for me. It's a 7 of spades, and Kid Eager called me, Leather Ace folded. I'm heads up and I'm out of position at this point. Now a king and a queen on the board, this is definitely the kind of thing that hit Kid Eager's hand, in my opinion, if he's going to cold call on the button. Didn't really want to re-raise me because I raised under the gun, so maybe somewhere in the range of king, queen, king, jack, and didn't necessarily want to raise me on the flop because was worried about me maybe three betting it or something like that. Now I've checked and Kid Eager is bet. So there's going to be $81 in the pot, and it's $16 for me to call. I don't know if the ace is good or not, and I actually don't want to hit a gut shot here, so I'm going to fold my ace high to Kid because I'm pretty sure that he's got me there. And he could even have an ace queen or something like that there and didn't re-raise. In the horse games especially, people tend to not play the hold'em as well or as aggressively. Horse games tend to attract players who play Omaha, stud 8 or better, and Raz. Hold'em players would just much rather play limit hold'em or no limit hold'em and don't want to bother with the split pot games and whatnot. So it's been raised, re-raised, and cold called as we get into the Omaha round here. a couple of sevens with a 5-6. I've got 2 hearts. This is really a piece of cheese in Omaha. When you play Omaha, you want to have a solid low draw like an ace-deuce or an ace-3 even, depending on how the action comes down. And you want them to be suited so that way, like we were talking about in stud high-low, you can make something on the high side as well, like a flush, or have a pocket pair to go with it, something that you might be able to flop a set. You know, Omaha's another game where you don't want to draw to half the pot. You don't want to play king, king, queen, queen, for example, especially if it's unsuited. I mean, it depends on the action, but why is that? Because, well, people play their aces in Omaha very regularly, so you know that if an ace flops, like, you're not going to like your hand. Plus, that ace is going to serve as 1 card to a low, so if another card to a low or 2 other cards to a low come out, kings and queens in your hand is completely worthless, because you're going to be up against, for sure, a low, if not an ace, and you're in no man's land. So those types of hands you only really end up making any money on if a board like 9-10 jack comes up or an all-high board comes up and you flopped a set somewhere along there, because otherwise most people who are in the hand aren't in that range, and you're not going to get paid off. King, queen, jack 7 in the small blind. It was raised by the aviator early. We were unsuited. It's really not the kind of hand you want to play, especially out of position, for a raise. So just lay it down and wait. We just picked up a really good starting hand. It's ace, ace, 8-3, double suited. So hearts and clubs make us a flush. Not to mention that we have pocket aces and the second nut, low pre-flop. Aviator limped in, leather ace limped in. So I'm raising on the button to try to attack the blinds. Both blinds have called now, as will the limpers. And the flop comes with hearts. So now ace, ace, 8-3. I've got the nut flush draw. I've got an overpair to the board. There's 1 low card on the board, so I can always back into the low draw. And too much action is leading right out at this pot. Could be something like a set. But in any case, after he leads and everybody else just calls, I like raising because you've got 4 other players in the pot. You're going to get 4-1 on your money here, even though that you're just drawing. So we're going to go ahead and put in the raise. And too much action is going to just call, which leads me to believe he's got something like king 10 with a heart draw. Board pairs on the turn. This is not my favorite card at all, because somebody could definitely inadvertently hold a jack in their hand, and that's what's happening here. Leather ace is leading right out. Now I can't back into a low, and paired boards in Omaha are very, very dangerous. Leather ace could have had something like queen jack, but we're going to call here because we can spike an ace to make aces full, which would probably be the best hand, unless, of course, you're up against quads. There's the ace of spades on the end. It is fixed. I'll tell you that right now. I just dialed in. There's a button I hit on my keyboard that allows things like this to happen. Here's a crazy thing. Just like I thought, too much action, let out with possibly a king 10. Now that they're leading out on the end, I'm inclined to believe that this is a poor bet with king 10. All right, leather ace is just calling after too much action is let out. We're going to raise it up since we've got the second nuts, unless someone's got quad jacks, which I doubt. We're going to take the pot. Wow, and too much action and rock bar, both of whom likely held straights, laid their hands down once it was raised up because they know on a paired board, especially if I'm raising 3 other people, they're probably toast. Now let's find out what leather ace had. My guess is obviously a jack with, I don't know, maybe a king. I doubt it was queen jack, but we'll find out shortly as we play this hand. Ace 4 of spades, queen 9 of clubs. The queen 9 of clubs is nice because it gives us a flush draw, and if a high board comes, we can make some kind of straight draw, and the ace 4 is not a very bad low draw. P0HA is limped in. I like to play aggressively in this spot because I don't want to be up against many hands, so I'm going to raise it up, try to see if I can't get position. Too much action's on the button and has re-raised us. But he's probably a little bit steamy over the last pot where he probably had king 10. We'll find out in a second. I'm clicking the last hand deal. Not our favorite flop. King, queen, jack, all rainbow. We got queens with an ace, so we can hit a 10 for a straight. Or back into something special. And too much action, short chip. That's another thing to pay attention to. If a guy loses a pot and ends up putting in a lot of action right away afterward and has kind of a short stack, a lot of times it's just because they're angry and they just want to get it all in there. They want to ram and jam. So we'll tear a card off here and see what happens. A 10 will give us the nut straight. We can pick up a spade draw if a spade hits, or a queen may be good. You never know. 3 of hearts is pretty awful. There's no low cards out there, so that's not going to give anyone a low draw. And now we've just got queens with an ace kicker. Now the other thing to pay attention to is sometimes when people re-raise before the flop, it's with 4 low cards, like an ace deuce 3 4 or something in Omaha, and they fire continuation bet after continuation bet, which means that your hand has a chance of being good. I'm not sure if that's what's happening with too much action right now. It could be a couple of aces, but in any case, we'll do the right thing, get away from our hand, even though we've got a draw to the nuts, not necessarily getting the right price. Now I'm regretting it. I kind of wanted to put a bad beat on that guy and bust him. But so let's find out what it was that we were up against in that pot with, who's this donkey right here again? Leather ace. All right. It was like, wow, 4s full. So it was a set of 4s on the flop. Like we said, when a board pairs in Omaha, a lot of times you're up against a full house. Board like that, I'm a little bit surprised that Leather Ace maybe didn't try to put in a little bit of action on the flop. Ace 4, 6, 7 here, a couple of hearts. We're in early position. Ace deuce, ace 3 would have been preferable. A lot of people will raise. I'm just going to limp, mix it up, see if we can't make a straight or a low here. Raise from the small blind by Kid Eager. This is typically going to at least incorporate an ace deuce in his or her hand. Look at this flop. This is huge. We've got the nut low draw with the ace 4. We've got a draw to a 6-high straight as well if the 5 hits. And we've got the nut flush draw. This flop is almost too big for me to raise, so I'm just going to call and see if I can't get the aviator to call behind us, because that's what helps me make money in the spot. If I'm just heads up against Kid Eager, it's not a situation where I'm going to make as much money. Now the aviator is raising on the button. Kid Eager is just going to call. I'm going to re-raise and put in a little bit of action here. It may look like a draw to these guys if they play well, but it also could look like a really big hand, like 2 kings or whatnot. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bet another barrel here because it looks like I may have flopped a set or may have flopped kings up or something along those lines, and I'm going to try to see if I can't get people off their hands, which I couldn't. Wow, 6 of hearts on the end, so now I've got the nut low and the nut flush. I got there. I don't know what I was thinking that someone would fold on the turn. I'm betting again. Now what could happen is if another ace 4 is out there, they may raise, which is exactly what's happening, thinking that I have the high end of the pot and I couldn't possibly have ace 4. I'm going to re-raise because I've got the flush. Even though I could be up against a boat and get quartered here by another ace 4, it's a spot I like. I'll take my chances. I don't think anyone has a full house. And now the aviator's got to decide if I really did just have the high and he's playing against Kid Eager for low. This could be a 4-5. Could be a smaller heart flush for Kid Eager. I think I'm scooping. I may be getting 3/4. That's my feeling on it right now. Let me take a little victory sip, preemptive. We got the aviator to call, and now Kid Eager is capping it. I feel like Kid Eager has ace 4 with hearts. That's my feeling. Ace 4, no hearts. So just like I thought, we 3/4'd him. We got ace 4 with the heart flush. Let's find out what the aviator was calling with. My guess is maybe an ace 5. Could be a weaker flush. Okay, it was the weaker flush. Here, I'll show you in a second. And that's pretty bad play by the aviator, actually, because while the 4-5 gives him the third nut low, ace 4 and ace 5 would have been better hands. The heart flush is not very good. And after Kid Eager and I are putting in as much action as we are on a paired board, you can pretty much count on the fact that the flush and the straight are not going to be winners in that spot. We're up quite a good number here. We started with $600 and now we're at $900.